Welcome to all of the matriarchs out there that are listening and other generations, if you're listening too. Welcome to another episode of the Millennial Matriarch. I am one of your hosts, ATD, Ashlie, known as Smashly to some, with a lot of other nicknames. And with me is my gorgeous, great friend, wonderful wife, fabulous support system to many, sweet, sweet Alexis.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to start the episode here. We're going to give you a little bit of housekeeping because if you're watching on YouTube, I look like I got hit by a bus, and emotionally, I truly feel like I did. I am getting ready to go out of town, and like a million things have gone wrong or like have happened. And I'm getting ready to go out of town for my best friend's wedding. So I also want her wedding to be perfect. So I just, there's things on my mind. And I also am so stuffy. So if you see me snorting this boom, boom nasal stick, just know it's an organic, like Vicks Vapo stick. And I do swear by them. I get congested a lot in the winter. So it just like keeps my nasal passages like flowy.
If you're listening and not watching, if when it's out of its packaging, it just looks like a little like white tube. And like at first I was like, does she have a bloody nose? Is it a tampon? And then I was also like, I knew it wasn't, but I was like, is it cocaina? Like what? A
Can
little
you imagine?
Coca-Cola? Like what is happening? All right. So that in mind, let's take some mental load off of you. Let's zen out and talk about one of our favorite subjects today, which is reading. And I know for some people, ugh, books? Who reads? Guess what? A lot of middle elder millennials still do.
And in today's society where people are not people, where this administration is banning books because they're literally trying to make people illiterate, keep fucking reading. I don't care what you read. Because the only way to stay educated is to read. Continue.
100%. And like short of having like memory issues, which some people do, you will be able to retain those learnings and retain like those stories and things that you read. No one can take that away from you. Here.
We're here.
I feel like reading like wasn't cool necessarily until like the last few years. Like, and maybe it's because we're at this age now, like we're in our 30s, and maybe that's why. And like I'm just noticing a lot. Like I've always been a reader, but I feel like people are like rising up and also becoming readers. Like book talk is huge. I feel like all of my friends, like we're discovering in each other, like, shit, you read too? Give me your recs. Like we're now bonding over it. What do you think?
I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to start by saying this. I come from a family of people who read. We all read. I grew up reading. My sister read I think my sister read 101 or 106
Get
books last
out of
year.
here.
Crazy, and she reads long books. Like I grew up with on road trips, my mom had an audiobook in, like, so like I know I grew up in a family of readers, like even my aunts, my uncles. That being said, I feel like people started reading more in the last, like, since COVID. And one, I think, listen, my opinion is that one, nobody could make new TV shows. So we were all rewatching old things. So, it was
Not a
reading.
problem.
No, I prefer to rewatch things I've already seen 100 times. But I think that people started reading more then to the invention of the e-reader. So I'm a Kindle girly. You've got Nook. You've got, the Kubo or whatever the off-brand Kindle is. Audible, Spotify does free audiobook listening if you're a premium member, or you get like a certain number of hours per month, depending on your package. People that read on Kindles typically read faster. So you're actually getting through things faster, which makes it more enjoyable.
Do you think that's because like the literal turning of a page takes time and that's why a Kindle is faster?
I think it's because the Kindle is significantly smaller and there's just like less words on a page, so you can move, so like you move faster.
Interesting. I just feel like reading is like it's so hot right now.
No, also, it's book talk, like, the smut, like, I'm all over book talk for the smut books.
Yeah. Yes. Great resource for smut. It truly is, other than like when I'm like out to dinner or hanging out with friends or like on a date with my husband, reading is like the only other time where I am not looking at a screen.
Yes.
And I'm not looking at a screen because I'm a physical book reader, but I'm also an audiobook listener, and when I'm listening to my audiobook, I'm on a walk, I'm cleaning. I actually find that it's easier to, like, multitask and get things done, but I'm usually not looking at a screen. So, like, if you need a reason to just, like, put the phone down and, like, look away from blue light, uh, start reading, if for no other reason, but you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Fun fact, I couldn't read until I was 10.
You need to tell me more about this because you said this to me and I truly was in shock.
I have a theory, but it's like an insufferable theory, like, you're gonna roll your eyes.
I like, I need to know.
So, growing up, I was bilingual. Well, I am bilingual, but I was raised bilingual, speaking French and English. See, you're already laughing at me. I told you it was insufferable.
I'm only laughing because you said you were bilingual, so I didn't know if you lost it.
No, I speak fr I've definitely lost it, but I speak French and obviously English, not well, but we do what we can, and I think so my dad, like, only spoke French to me. My mom honestly speaks better than I do, and she would too, but, like, she was the English side. So, I just grew up reading both. I think when it came time to start reading, I got confused and, like, it was hard for my brain to process, like, both languages, but then, like, attempting to read in English. That is, like, a very loose theory I have.
No, it's actually true because 2 of my best friends are now raising bilingual kids,
Yes.
and they actually say that not obviously, but the best time to teach, if you want your child to be bilingual, the best time is to teach them, like, right out the gate.
Yeah.
So, and bilingual kids typically tend to, I know, speak later because it's like they're like, if you're speaking to them in both languages, it's, like, exactly what you said.
That's my theory. I'm glad you could validate it. And I was on, like, Hooked on Phonics, if you know, you know. Like, I think everyone just thought I was a little slow, which, like, I am, but
Nothing wrong.
one day it just clicked. Like, I went from literally not being able to read a friggin' page to standing up in church and reading homilies, and once it clicked, I was in. I was like because I would basically, like, pretend to read and make up stories, and my mom would be like, "Oh, she's reading," and, like, telling me a story, and then she'd, like, look over and she'd be like, "That's not the words." So I think, like, when I finally was able to, like, I was just so like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much entertainment in this that, yeah, I never stopped."
Wait, I wanna hear some of these stories because honestly, if you were out here you were just a natural born storyteller. You're out here just
Just a
like
natural born entertainer and performer. That said, we are going to talk about some of the last few books that we read, hoping that some fellow readers are listening and need some inspo, or perhaps you're looking to get into reading and kind of want to know where to start. The beauty, I think, of you and I, Alexis, is that we are vast genre readers.
yes.
So, like, in my list, you're gonna hear a couple of genres, but I truly read, like, romance, mystery, I love, like a celebrity biography, a novel, a memoir. I like to read books about religion. Like, it really runs the gamut, and I know it does for you too. So, I think that that's also kind of part of the excitement is, like, there really is something for everyone, I think, in our repertoire. And maybe we'll turn this into a little series when we, like, feel
I
compelled.
think we should do a book club. Not yet.
A little millennial book club. TM, TM.
Oh, I love that. Tam Tam.
Hit me with, like, some of the last few books you've read and, like, did you like them? Did you hate them? Would you recommend them? And obviously tell us a little bit about it, but, like, maybe give me, like, does Goodreads do a 1 to 5 score?
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe give
1
me,
to
like,
5.
a star, like a that you would rate them?
If any of the books on my list, if the star rating does not match up on my Goodreads, I did not know I had. So don't go searching. So if you see me looking around, it's because I have books everywhere. If you ever come to my house, I have books literally everywhere. So I am one of those people that I am always reading at least 3 books at one time. So I'm typically listening to an audiobook. I'm
Wild.
typically listening to an audiobook that I do when I need to be like Ashlie said, when I'm cleaning, if I'm going for a walk, if I'm like, in motion, if you will.
Mhm.
Then I have a bedtime book, which I always read on my Kindle because then I can do like the low light and I have the Kindle. Do I have the Paperwhite? I have the Kindle Paperwhite. And then I typically am always reading a like educational book. So when I say, so the last 3 books that I read, I'm actually not fully confident that these are the last 3 because my order gets a little wonky. I don't think any of you are going to care, but we might be jumping around. So the last book I read was The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. This is my thing. Because I read actual, like, I'm a smut reader, and I've been a smut reader since the A-List series when I was in high school, which was my version of smut. Because again, I hope I was not reading the stuff that I read now at that age.
Yeah,
So
no
when
judgment.
I read a book like the Christmas Fix by Lucy Score, which is about a small town called Mary, and basically it gets hit with a natural disaster and they need to rebuild the town before Christmas because Mary does a big Christmas Eve or Christmas month long festival, but they're only going to be able to do it on Christmas Eve because of all the damage and, they need to save the town. So, our 2 protagonists, because it switches between, in this story, it's male and female point of view. So don't ask me the main characters' names. I can never remember them after I finish reading a book unless it's like a book I like really, really love. So the female main character, she is a reality TV like host. So I picture like a home improvement, kind of vibe, but with the Habitat for Humanity element because she likes to come in and rebuild homes and schools and build like she likes to rebuild towns that have been hit heavy.
So she doesn't live in this town?
She does not live in this town. However, her love interest is I think he's like the city councilman.
Of course. He has right, he's some sort of pillar of society, which is like a classic trope.
This is why I actually love to read dark romance because the trope is grumpy sunshine. So for those of you that don't know what that means, it means that the man is like the grumpy lumberjack.
At first.
Right, and then, the female is the, ooh, sparky, spunky, kinda character.
Is there a movie called The Christmas Fix? I don't know why that
Good question.
title.
It sounds like I mean, it sounds like a Hallmark movie,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
typically not what I like to read. However, because we were in the ho holidays, I wanted to read a little holiday-esque book.
Yeah, I love that.
However, I also am laughing because you kind of forget that you have a type, right? And it's like I'm attracted to tropes that kind of are like my husband. So it's like this guy,
Beautiful.
this guy was a grumpy lumberjack. The book I'm currently reading, it's a Beauty and the Beast fan fiction. So he's a grumpy lumberjack lumberjack kind of guy that fixes books. Anyway, when I just thought of that, I was like, "Oh god, I have a type."
Fair enough. You're like not into this character. He's not what I'm into.
No,
To wrap up the Christmas Fix, did you like it? Like, was it what you were hoping for? And what was your rating?
I gave it 3 stars, I
Okay.
think. Yeah, 3 stars. It was like a great bedtime book. Like it was cozy, the spice level. Like I love to read books that make me like not always. If I'm going to read a romance, I want it to make me like tingle in my pants a little. The spice, because again, I like to read like much more aggressive spice. I would give the spice like a 2. So if you're on Book Talk, they do the chili peppers. A lot of
Oh,
where the
yeah.
chili peppers will be the spice level. So I would
Got
say
it.
2 chili peppers.
I'll go into
Yeah.
what I recently finished, it was an audiobook, was Cake Eater by Carl Radke,
I
which,
need to listen to that.
you will not regret it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start off by saying 5 out of 5. And
And he narrates it, right?
he does, which to me adds to the value of listening to it because you really get to hear, like, the inflections of his voice, the emotion, it's just great when you read a novel or a memoir or biography and it's them.
So is it just about his life, his journey to sobriety and then like his brother's death? Like, does it touch on like the grief? Like, yeah.
He gives a really great synopsis of his whole life, but the book is rooted in his road to sobriety. So he'll take you through things in his childhood that sort of give you a glimmer into what will eventually be his addiction to alcohol and to cocaine. And I can't remember what else, if anything else. Carl, if you're listening, feel free to correct me. So he'll take you to the glimmers of his childhood, the dynamic of his family. It is not a spoiler or a secret that his brother passed away from a drug overdose. I want to say 5, almost 6 years ago. I think it was in 2020.
Just to give some folks some context, Carl Radke is one of the cast members on Summer House, which is a reality TV show on
Yeah,
Bravo.
yeah,
And his brother passed away in season 4 or 5 because it was the COVID season where it was the first season that they were like locked in the house. It's it's Lindsay Hubbard's you why don't you ever make a sandwich for me season.
yes. A lot of I can't. It was Hannah Berner's last season. Yeah, that was a great season. Obviously, the passing of his brother did not make it a great season, but it was incredible to watch. And so, yeah, he sort of talks about his family dynamic. He eventually talks about his own habits that sort of formulated throughout his teenagehood, his college years. But he also talks about like who he really is like fundamentally and like the importance his career was to him, and you learn so many things about him that you just didn't know on the show, which I loved. My fear anytime I read a book by a reality TV star, or frankly like any celebrity, is that I'm not going to get anything new or juicy, and that is not the case here. He definitely gave us a glimpse into things that we as the audience of Summer House have never had. And I really appreciated that. And it was vulnerable, it was raw. I found myself tearing up a couple of times, definitely when he talked about the passing of his brother. There's a lot that I can't relate to about his story, and I still felt it like really hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 5 out of 5 off the dome. And I don't laugh,
Now I'm going to.
but I messaged him on Instagram. I do not do this. I do not do this. I messaged him on Instagram and I said, I just listened to your book. I shared it with a couple people in my life that I thought would find
Yes.
value from it.
Yeah.
And this might be weird, but like, I just want you to know I'm proud of you. And
And
I
did
don't
he
know if he read
respond?
it. I don't know if he didn't. No, he didn't respond. Why would he? I'm sure he's getting
Sometimes they
infiltrated.
do. You would be surprised.
Yeah, you never know. I'll keep checking my DMs, but I just said like I'm proud of you because it's like it's a weird parasocial thing, but like I really am. And like I think that he is a great guy and with his faults, which he admits to, and it's a really well done book. I think I finished it in 2 listens. So I listened to it for like a couple of hours. I also listened to things on 1.3 speed
That's
because
fine.
there's some narrators where I'm like, "Get to the fucking point."
Well, some of them are slow.
Highly, highly, highly recommend.
Have you ever listened to Demi Moore's audiobook?
No, but I have you told me about this or have I heard this from someone else that it's a must
Hers
read?
is one of my favorite all-time audiobooks I've ever listened to. Well,
Okay.
also because she's an actress, so the narration behind it is just
Yeah.
so good, but, I'm a big St. Elmo's Fire fan, and Jules is, like, my favorite character, and Demi Moore plays her, And Demi Moore was like a real life Jules and like not and that's not necessarily always like necessarily like a good thing, but it was just really interesting to listen to her talk about the story of her life. And now I listened to this book not this past summer, the year before. So like some of the details are rocky. So sorry I'm not giving a better description, but it was I've recommended it to people all the time. I thought it was amazing.
I just added it to my list. Fabulous. All right, what's another book you've read more recently?
Most more recently, I think is 107 Days by Kamala Harris. Because I listened to that audiobook and I bought the physical book because I, from a marketing and social media perspective, was absolutely fascinated by her campaign. And I just loved I loved learning about her strategy, at least from a marketer's perspective. And, even down to the markets that she spent time in versus the markets that she genuinely didn't have time to go to. We don't need to get into the politics of this book. However, I am a proud Democrat and, I personally feel like she was robbed and wasn't given enough time. So, it was just really interesting to kind of hear it from her perspective. And I think something that we like, I think one of the lessons that I learned in reading this book, and I think it's something we can all take away from it, is that you're only ever seeing part of something. So, for every person out there that was like, she didn't spend enough time in my market, and like she didn't. Like, quite frankly, I think she needed to spend more time in Middle America. When she kind of explains like why like the markets that she literally had to choose, she only had 107 days, and that's really not a lot of time.
I read it too, and yeah, to be clear, it's called 107 days because 107 days before the election is when she learned slash decided slash Joe was like, I'm out, not necessarily at his own will. That's when she became a candidate and running for president. And it literally takes you through every single day, almost like a journal entry, every
Yes.
single day
Yes.
of the 107 days leading up to the election. And then at the end, there's sort of like her final, like, okay, now that we've learned the results, this is sort of what happened in that moment. Um, and honestly, like I walked away from it, both feeling like so much more educated and enlightened. I mean, I was already a fan, but I was definitely more of a fan. But I got to tell you, I kind of walked away feeling a little sad because we all know what happened. She wasn't
Yeah.
elected, so you think about this woman and all of these like amazing insights and words, and obviously, she is very forthcoming. Yes, she's the head, but there is an entire team behind her supporting, creating strategy, brainstorming, and she definitely credits all of those people. But you just kind of think like, what could have been? It's kind of a bummer, but definitely a
Yeah.
great book.
It broke my heart, not even for her and the campaign. It actually broke my heart for our society because the world that we were living in now, right? The world that we are currently living in and what
Yes.
this administration is currently doing, it wouldn't have been the case. It would not have been the case. And it's like, we as a fucking country could have avoided this. Like, this is why people need to read. This is why we need to believe history books. This is why we need to keep museums open because we are in the moment. We are standing on a precipice. And Ashlie talked about this. The astrology of the year 2026 even says it. And like, what side of history do you want to be on right now? And I really would encourage everybody to, quite frankly, be on the right side of history, which is one that is inclusive, open, loving, caring, compassionate, and empathetic. And that's how I feel.
And I'll take it a step further, and I could say that I'm not saying you should be a Democrat or you should have voted for Kamala. But if the attributes that Alexis just described are things that you don't align with, you should just turn off this podcast right now and stop
And
listening.
don't come back, quite frankly.
Because we don't need your lending ears if you don't believe in all of the
Yeah,
attributes that Alexis just named that you're gonna hear a lot about on this podcast now and in the future. So
I agree.
next on my list was That's a Great Question, I'd Love to Tell You by Elise Myers. Now, for people who don't know, Elise Myers is I know her as like a social media personality,
TikToker. Yeah,
a
yeah,
TikToker. She's an incredible storyteller. Like, I think she blew up telling stories about
she
like
is.
the worst date she's ever been on. And like, just like her tone and like the way that she speaks is like so compelling, and she's so cute and like so funny. So I really fell in love with her online and read her book, and it's about her life. But it really, even though she doesn't say this explicitly, I feel comfortable saying that what it's really about is like her neurodivergence. And
Yes, it is, and that's something she talks about a lot on her social.
yeah, so it's not like it's a secret, but what you really get is much like a diary or journal entry. Is like you're getting insight into the feelings in her body when she's put in certain situations. Some of them not so great, some of them maybe to us completely normal, but the way the sort of internal dialogue that happens when she is talking to a boy she likes, or talking to a friend that she's hoping invites her to the sleepover, or hiding something from her mom because she's worried about what her mom's going to say, like all sort of like normal things everyone goes through, but her internal dialogue is so unique. Or maybe it's not, but what is unique is her giving insight and really speaking from her voice and her point of view. So for that reason, I really respect the book. I really liked that I like that this book exists. I think that
Me
if
too.
you experience neurodivergence, you are hopefully going to feel very seen by this book. And I will say it elicited anxiety in me. It was kind of like when I watched Precious Gems with Adam Sandler,
Uncut Jam?
Uncut Gems, but like that's the fucking point. The
Yeah.
way that that movie is shot and written, the way that this book from Elise Myers is written, which is completely just truthful to her, I think that that is the intention. It's to
Yes.
elicit the
Yes.
anxiety that the main character, or in this case, the real person, is feeling. And for that reason, that was accomplished.
Yes.
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 because I just didn't feel like everything I just told you is sort of how I feel about the book, and that's it. I don't really It's not something I would read again. It's not something that I felt connected to, but I am proud of her and I'm glad that it exists, and I think others should read it just to form some empathy
Yes.
around neurodivergence. And that's kind of where I'll leave that. And did you
Well,
read it?
I'm listening to it right now,
Awesome.
and I think I'm about halfway through, but I will say this too, like, I think, if you kind of take the fact that you listened to Carl's and that one had such a profound kinda you were like, "Oh my," like, "this one was so good." Where nobody is saying that to somebody else, Elise Meyer's book might not be 5 stars. It was just like, for you, Carl was the 5, so this
Yeah.
this this is the
Yeah,
3,
you guys gotta
you
take
know?
our ratings with a grain of
Yeah,
salt, but, that's just
yeah,
my honest
yeah.
opinion.
I'm looking at a pile of books that I'm currently reading that I'm like, those are all way more interesting.
What of that pile that you haven't started reading yet are you, like, dying to get into? Or, like, is there something on your to-read list that you're dying to get into? I am literally, as you're sharing, gonna go into my to-read drawer of physical books that I have stacked, and I'm gonna pull some out because I want my next book to be one of these that's been sitting in my drawer forever. So let us know what you're interested in reading, and I'm gonna grab mine.
If you're on YouTube, this is not even the full this is nowhere near the full stack of my TBR. This is just the one that I can physically reach. So, the first one on my list is actually The Books of Enoch. And if you're not familiar, this, according to evangelical scripture, is like the lost books of the Bible. But the reason that I'm into it, or that I want to read it, and I started it a little bit before the holidays, but got kind of sidetracked. And now I have not read the Bible, but my father is a priest and I grew up in a church and I ask a lot of questions. And so to my knowledge, it covers the 3 books of Enoch are not in the standard Bible, so it kind of covers things that are not in the Bible.
This feels like a very intellectual read.
I
I'm so impressed.
So I started reading it, and it's really interesting because I like the way that it's formatted where, like, if you let me kind of put it up. If you so you can see, Ashley, if you can see, you'll have, like, a line, like a section that's, like, the text from the actual Bible, and then you'll
Uh,
have the text from the book of Enoch.
it's helpful.
So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting comparison, but yeah, it's not a light read,
Okay.
but it called to me, so I bought it. Lighter is, I'm a huge Anthony Bourdain fan, and I've actually never read Kitchen Confidential. That is on my list. The entire everything that I picked up from this stack is this must have been the intellectual pile.
Yeah, she's like, casual, just here's well my intellectual books that I plan on reading this year.
The next one is The Last Interview by John Lewis. So I'm pretty sure when we had Mackenzie Green on the episode that's titled The President's Daughter, she talked a lot about John Lewis, or not a lot, but she mentioned John
Mhm.
Lewis and how he was a huge major player in the civil rights movement. So this, and then you're gonna sense a theme. I should have grabbed the books of the. I have another pile over here that's like my like poetry books that I like that I want to read. We Are Polarized by Ezra Klein, and Ezra Klein is the host of the Daily Podcast and a New York Times reporter. That's my to read.
Amazing. Okay. My first one is slightly intellectual, but then I go down a rabbit hole. I'll just give you 2 that I'm looking to read. This one's called Bittersweet by Susan Cain. This is a book that my mom, I think read and then saw it in the airport and on her way to visit me and felt that I should read it.
Man, I love that. I love an airport
It's
book purchase.
the subtitle is How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole. It's about I'll
I have
just read a little
questions.
bit of the synopsis. It's bittersweetness is a tendency to states of longing, poignancy, and sorrow, an acute awareness of passing time, and a curiosity piercing joy at the beauty of the world. It recognizes that light and dark, birth and death, bitter and sweet are forever paired. So that kind of gives you an
I love
idea of
that.
like, and it's not fiction. This is this I want to say she's some sort of scholar of some sort, and so she's just talking about like the psychology of experiencing, I'm guessing, loss and trauma, but also like how that kind of makes the good that much more sweet, hence bittersweet. So yeah, I have not read a book like this. Like I guess you could call it self-help. I guess you could call it like, learning more about your innards. I haven't read a book like that in a while, so I'm excited to pick it up. It is kind of a girthy little book, so we'll see. I'm so excited to read that. And then the next one, which I know is going to be a fast read, but it's been sitting in my drawer forever, is The Next Person You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom.
Oh, that has been on my list forever. It's on my list
Okay.
forever.
Amazing. So I wanted to ask about like some of your favorite books of all time. And I'm bringing it up now because one of my favorite books of all time is The Five People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. So this next book, The Next Person You Meet in Heaven, came out years after that one, and is the sequel to that book. So I'm really excited to get into it. Mitch Albom is probably one of my favorite authors. I've read so much by him, and he's really diverse in terms of like what he writes about. Like he does write about a lot about like heaven and like spiritual beings, but he also wrote like a book about his adopted daughter one time, and it was an incredible book. So highly recommend that author, and I'm really excited to get into that. But on that note, what are some of your all-time faves that you'd recommend to anyone in the spirit of that?
Just so you know, anybody listening, I can never give you the top like a top book that I've read.
Yeah.
There because I read so frequently and like
Yeah.
things move in and out, but there are certain books that I like have thought about and have come back to. Last year, The Favorites by Lane Fargo, it came out last January, actually like a year ago.
Familiar.
That book is about like competitive figure skating, and it is fascinating. It is just oh, and it's fiction. I do wanna say that. Basically, this is what the back of the book or this is how the AI describes it. It's a novel about two elite figure skaters, Kat Shaw and Heath Roca, whose intense obsessive relationship on and off the ice captivates the world until a shocking incident ends their partnership at the Olympics. 10 years later, an unauthorized documentary forces Kat to confront their past, revealing the truth behind their rise to fame and dramatic fall. And it explores themes of obsession, ambition, and love in the cutthroat world of figure skating. And this says the book is described as a Wuthering Heights retelling set in the worlds of Olympic ice dance. I could not I ate it up. It reads like soapy. It just
Wow.
like because so I really like books that flash between past and present and then also have multiple character perspectives, and this book has all of that. It could be that I read it in a time where I kind of mentally was in a dark place and it gave me some levity, and it just, like, was something that kinda distracted my mind from what was actually going on in my life in the time, so I think I'm like, "Oh my god, I love it." Then I've read a lot of books by Sylvia Day. My absolute favorite series by her, and actually my all when people say I want to get into romance kind of smut adjacent, I always say please read the Crossfire series by Sylvia Day. If you have heard of 50 Shades of Grey, it is a 50 Shades of Grey light style book. Light, not light, like style book, but the writing is so much better, the character development is so much better. The series follows a cast of characters throughout a certain amount of time, so it really captures you at at the heart. And it's just I've reread it a bunch of times. It's such a comfort read for me. All right, what about yours?
Okay, so one of my all-time favorite books is The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, which I feel like might be kind of a basic bitch answer, but I truly like it just sticks out so much in my mind. I really like that author. I think he also wrote A Thousand Splendid Suns, which I think was also like really popular around the years that it came out. I think it came out in like 2003 or something. I'm gonna read the synopsis a little bit because, like, I just think that that's the best way to describe it, and it's honestly been a long time since I read it, but, like, I just remembered, like, the feelings that I felt while reading it, and, like, that to me, like,
Yeah, that's
constitutes a good book.
yes, I agree.
But yeah, it's described as an unforgettable, heartbreaking story of the unlikely friendship between a wealthy boy and the son of his father's servant. The Kite Runner is a beautifully crafted novel set in a country that's in the process of being destroyed. So for context, it's set in Afghanistan. So that's why you're hearing about like servants and like sort of like this like social hierarchy. Like we're talking about a war-torn country, we're talking about civil unrest. So all of that is kind of happening around these two boys, and you're getting both like a perspective, a storytelling of when they were children, and you're getting the story of what's currently happening right now. And it's just like it's sad, but it's super powerful. And then another book, I mean, I have so many favorites, but something that I read more recently, I think I read it 2, 3 years ago. It's called Educated by Tara Westover.
Loved, loved that book. Loved it.
I'm so, so glad you read it. Again, I'm not going to give it justice, so I'll give you a little bit of the synopsis. First of all, it's a novel. It's about, or sorry, a memoir. It is about Tara Westover's upbringing and her life, but it's written like fiction. Like the storytelling, the imagery, the feelings, like it really has all of that. So, yeah, so Tara Westover was 17 the first time she set foot in a classroom. Born to survivalists in the mountains of Idaho, she prepared for the end of the world by stockpiling home canned peaches and sleeping with her head for the hills bag. In quotes, you'll learn what that means. In the summer, she stewed herbs for her mother, a midwife and healer, and in the winter, she salvaged her father's junkyard. Um, Education is an account of the struggle for self invention. It's a tale of fierce family loyalty and of the grief that comes with severing the closest of ties. talk about
So good.
talk about
So good.
reading being so pivotal in your life and in your education. If you have nothing else, the ability to read comes through in this book, and this fight for this young woman to become educated, to be able to go to school. It's silly, but it kind of reminds me of Matilda, right? Like she sort of had this inner knowing of like, I want to
Yeah.
learn. I am starving for information. And it's
Well, and she had to go against her family and her
that's what I was
parents.
gonna say. It's also this struggle of being loyal and loving your family and respecting your parents, but knowing inside that what they're doing is not right for you. And it's actually, there's some crazy traumatic things that happen in the book because of this lifestyle that her family has adopted that honestly became a literal unsafe place for her. Just it's also a thick read, but literally every time like someone comes up to like my office and they look at my bookshelf and they're like, "Oh, I want to borrow a book," or "What do you think?" I'm like, "Trust me on this. You're gonna want to
Was it a
read."
long book? Because I read it on my Kindle, so I feel like I had no frame of reference.
I just remember it being thick. Yeah, and I devoured it. It's one of those books that like I wish I could undo having read it and then read it again just so I could experience it for the first time again. That's so cheesy, but it's so true. It's so good.
It's funny because when you were talking about that, don't ask me why this popped in my head. The book Tell Me Lies is so much better than the TV show.
Is it? I am the type of person who wants to, if I can, read the book before I see the movie or the show. Unfortunately, I did not know that Tell Me Lies was a book when I started, and I was actually like 2 seasons behind, and I devoured the first 2 seasons at the behest of my sister and frankly everyone else. So glad I did. The premiere of the new season is literally tonight. We were recording on January 13th. So I'm hoping to catch it later or tomorrow. But goddamn, I hate to hear that. I love to hear that, but I hate to hear that because like I wish I read the book first. Like now I feel like I'd be ruined. Do you watch the show? What do you think?
So I watched the first season and I got about like, so I'm really bad at watching TV shows that are like not reality. Like I'm really bad at watching scripted TV
You didn't feel like glued?
because I love the book. I loved the book was so much better in my opinion. And
There you go.
also, just so you know, TV show goes beyond the book. The first season is really the book, unless there's like a part 2 or a sequel, and like that I have not read.
Yeah, I don't know.
But no, I got halfway through season 2. I basically stopped at where the what is it? The roommate has the relationship with the like teacher or the professor or whatever. Like they had like a tryst or two.
I wonder though, and obviously don't say it because you're going to potentially give it away to the watchers of the show, but I'm just saying this out loud. Like, I wonder if the mystery that we're hoping gets solved here in season 3 is answered in the book. Like the wedding. Like, does it happen? Don't tell me. Like, I'm wondering because what they're stretching, they might have taken the end of the book, but stretched it.
Stretched it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, actually, I think that that's a perfect segue to get into our next segment because we're sort of now on the topic of pop culture with Tell Me Lies. And that is our Millennial Mouthful segment. This is the part where we talk about what we love, what we hate, what we're watching, what we're reading, although I think we're good with that for now. What we're thinking about, what's grinding our gears, what's bugging us.
Well, I feel like I have just like kind of like sat on my soapbox a little bit with some of what I wanted to talk about today, but I'm not going to get off of it because Spencer Pratt has announced one, not only that he is running for LA mayor, but also that he's coming out with a book. And if you don't know, Spencer Pratt is a reality television star, Spidey. He started on The Hills with Lauren Conrad and Brody Jenner and Heidi Montag. And then, my girl, Kristen Cavallari, K-Cav, came on. And there's a whole cast of characters,
He is
but
married to Heidi Montag.
has married to Heidi Montag. So he lost his home during the
That's right.
during the when the entire state of California felt like it was on fire. It was
I think we
literally
just
insane.
passed the anniversary,
We
right?
did. We did, and I think that's also why some of that Ashley Tisdale toxic mom group drama came out.
Yeah.
So he lost his home and, Spencer really like, I'm gonna say, like, pounded the pavement. Like, he really was out here like being a spokesperson, and he had announced that he was running for mayor. And it's so interesting to me because I've obviously like I am a chronically online person, so I've seen the backlash, and I'm like, the same reason why people don't want Spencer Pratt to run or think that he's fit for mayor is because he's a reality star, but also but also he's already made a name for himself because he is a reality star and people know him, and he grew up in the palace. It's like what
Yeah.
is a better story than a kid who grew up in the streets, who like really saw this vibrant community come to shambles, and like he really wants to rebuild it.
Yeah. And for some additional context, in The Hills, in the show, in kind of all the reality shows that he's been part of, he's represented as the villain. That may or may not be at all what he's like in person.
Right.
I think that the cast of The Hills has come out and sort of admitted that like much of it was scripted, incredibly produced, and they were majority of the time playing. So I think we need to take that with a grain of salt. So listen, in a world where reality stars become presidents of the United States, I think it's okay for others to say, okay, well, maybe I can be something different too. And hopefully for the better this time.
And hopefully for the better. There's a video that was posted. And again, he was at some rally for the, kind of 1 year mark of the fires. And he announced it. And let me tell you, his 6-minute video was like, I was like, I want to donate to his campaign.
So
I
it was
was
a
like,
legit announcement. It
it was
wasn't
like
just like something he said in passing like
no,
Kanye
it
did.
was like, no, no. It was like, so for those of you who can't see, I just
Just
rolled my eyes.
saying.
It was like a legit announcement. Like,
Wow.
he had a speech and a platform and like
Wow.
specific areas that he wanted to go. Like, he called out the current mayor, the governor, the fire department. Like,
Yeah.
he had it. Like, he didn't just get up there and go on a whim.
Because he was sort of, for lack of a better word, sort of pissed about the way that like things were handled, right? In terms
Yes,
of
there was all of this scandal that happened around, well, when the fires happened, about insurance companies changing their policies for
right.
people who lived in areas that were like, I'm gonna say a fire hazard, which like, I'm sorry, if you're in like Southern California at all, like that's like a lot of that's like that's like a big part of the state that's I feel like would be a fire zone.
Yeah.
So like that happened, and then I believe their reservoir didn't have enough water. So it's like there was like kind of like he basically like he's running on the platform of this was all preventable and avoidable, and we should go after the people that I'm going to say kind of got stuck in corporate greed and paychecks, and like look at the amount of people who lost homes.
Yeah. Dude, don't even, I don't want to go on a tirade, but like, don't even fucking get me started on insurance and the
I know.
fucking
I know.
game that's being run deep. It just feels dirty. It feels
Yeah.
icky. And that's probably what's driving Spencer is like, this is dirty.
This is dirty. This is icky. And, so I commend him. Like, I'm like, you know what? You saw a problem and you want to fix it. I don't know if he announced that he's coming out with a book today, but I saw it today and I am, I want to read it because I don't care how much money you have. You are never in a position to lose everything. So many people lost heirlooms and photos and jewelry and books. Like, I think about, like we've talked about, my mother is no longer with us, and there are things of hers that I cling on to. And if they were ripped from me, like, I like
Irreplaceable things.
irreplaceable. Like, who cares about like the designer shoes and the designer bags? Like, pictures. Like, I remember Heidi was like, I lost every single picture of my kids. And
And And these are celebrities, and a lot of the people in those areas are affluent, and I feel like there's a bit of like a, sort of putting your nose up at that, like, "Ah, whatever, they can replace," but to your point, they're irreplaceables, and at the end of the day, these are still human beings who hold value in sentimental items, who hold value in things that their parents and their loved ones passed on to them, that it could even be like the fucking measurements on the door frame as their kids grew up and got taller. Like, come on. Like, you gotta have empathy for that.
one of the reasons I also really want to read Spencer's book, and he talks about this in his announcement for mayor, Spencer comes from an affluent family. That's not a secret. His parents lost their whole house.
God
So now,
damn.
you know what I mean? So it's like, damn.
Honestly, if there is no reason to not live within the same town as your family, that's it. Because if something happens, like a natural disaster, your whole fucking clan has been taken out.
Like that's what I'm
That's
saying. Like, talk
terrible.
about survivalist, actions and reading. Like, it's like that is the thing that nightmares are made of.
Yeah, well, between that and his whole sort of history, I'd read that book.
I wanna pre-order it because, they lost everything. And we'll always say this. I think it's always great to donate. Like, if you're in a position where you have anything that you can donate to those who are less fortunate, like it's ingrained in me.
Mhm.
So I like to try to help people where I can. And, if him writing a book and selling a book is going to help him be able to like, like that's the thing, put a roof over his family's head, like
Yeah.
literally put a roof over his family's head.
And who's to say that he I mean, it sounds like he already is, but he won't use his celebrity and then monetization from that. He's also like one of like the top TikTok live streamers too. Like
Yeah.
he makes bank off of that, but he's probably someone who will use that to pay it forward. So think about that. You're not just investing in this celebrity. If you feel weird about that, you might be investing in other people too. And listen, if you can't donate your money, donate your time.
Right.
Borrow a
Yeah.
book,
Like, give back
read
where you
it,
can.
support from afar, like his posts if you
Yeah.
feel compelled. And obviously, you can always donate your time with volunteer work for different groups that,
Yeah.
support those causes, but I'll get off my soapbox. More in the celebrity realm, Jeanette McCurdy was on Call Her Daddy this week. When you're listening, it would have been 2 weeks ago, but this week's episode was with Jeanette McCurdy, who, if you don't know, was a child actor. She was like it was Nickelodeon, right? That was kind of her
Yeah.
jam.
iCarly. She was on iCarly.
iCarly. I don't know if it was, I think it was a couple years ago, Jeanette wrote a book called I'm Glad My Mom Died. Holy shit, what a visceral title. But I will tell you, it is an incredible book, an incredible read, another memoir, and really aligns with our book theme this week. But she was actually on Call Her Daddy promoting her next book, which is called Half His Age, which is actually a fiction book, but it's sort of loosely based in her experience having been in a relationship with a much older man. And I know we sort of talked about that on this podcast a little bit when we were doing our Millennial Matriarch After Dark, talking about our past dating history. And so I'm in. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. I am the audience. I am fully reading this book. But, they got into it in the episode, reflecting on her past book, her relationship with her mother, who has now passed, but then really kind of diving into the theme of this book. And there's something about this girl. Like, I could listen to her talk forever. I think when she was promoting her first book, I listened to every podcast that she was a guest on. And, when they're on these sort of press tours, they sort of have their bullet points. They talk about the same
Yeah.
things over and over again in order to promote the book. And I listened to every single one of them, even though I had already heard the information. I just loved listening to
Yeah.
her. I love how she expresses herself. Obviously, I love Call Her Daddy, so I was like, "This is a match made in heaven for me." And did you listen to the episode too?
Yes, yeah. I thought it was really interesting because something that I am always fascinated about because I do wanna like, I'm working to go back to school because I wanna get my master's in psychology. I'm always interested in, like, why people do things, why people are wired, kinda how that happens, and it was so interesting because I have not read her first book. I definitely wanna listen to the audiobook. I'm all over this fictional second book, but it was very interesting for me to when I listened to kind of the relationship with her mother and a relationship that was not the healthiest and, toxic, and kind of how she had no idea because it was like, I mean, that was her normal. And it was like, both of them struggled with like I believe, like, eating disorders and body image and just, it was really interesting kind of looking at the parallels, and how that can happen. Yeah, I thought it was an incredible interview. I also thought that it was structured so well, like, even though what's the book called? Older? No, not Older, that's a different book
Half
I
his
read.
age.
Half his age. It's like, even though that book is fictional, the themes are real, and, like, she did, when she was very young, have a relationship with a much older man, and, kinda like the grooming of it all, of how, like, older men do and listen, I'm gonna say in this example, it's older men prey on younger women because that is, like, literally the example we're talking about, but, it can go either way, both ways, like, it's not just heterosexual. And it was just kind of interesting to listening to like certain things that this man said to her that made her think that she was special because yeah, when you're like younger and like an older guy is has a crush on you, like we've all been well, you and I have been the freshmen in high school that had a crush on the senior jock, and it's like, oh, yeah, if he, like, looked at you or whatever, like, it's like, yeah, you feel, like, cool. And
Yeah.
just kind of how it was manipulated and twisted and predatory?
Yeah.
One of
You
what?
nailed it at the end.
Yeah, close enough.
'Cause she talked about, like, some stories, like, some examples of her own personal experience, even though that's not what the book is about, it comes from
Right.
a place of knowing, right? And I found myself, like, nodding so hard at certain
I was
spots.
actually really curious because, especially based on the conversation like we had had in that Millennial After Dark episode where,
Yes.
Ashley, what'd you call it? Not a splendid daddy? That's what you were
Splendid
into?
Daddy
A splendid daddy?
was my type.
You
I'm a recovering Splendid Daddy addict.
you are your husband is your age.
He's age appropriate and proud.
Yes, I have never been with anybody like that significantly older. It's just kind of scary and, like it
Kinda.
because listen, there's a difference between somebody who is an accidental manipulator and somebody who is calculated and controlling and
Yeah.
manipulating for personal gain, and it gave me some fodder, gave me some feeling.
In the Call Her Daddy interview, this happened, and I have a feeling it's gonna happen a lot more as I read the book, is there were things that Jeanette voiced that I was like, "I've
Yeah.
never thought that, but now that that sounds like things I have dealt with, am now seeing it with a new lens, and I'm realizing, yeah, that was that grooming is what was
Yeah.
happening, or this was fucked up, or I did let this person treat me in a certain way because I put more value in the feeling special, which was, sort of manipulative and intentional. And I have a feeling that even though this book is fictional that she wrote, a lot more of that is going to happen for me. So I'll report back as I read it, just seeing how it feels for me from a personal
Yeah.
experience, but, I mean, she's a great writer, so I'd recommend it to anyone. I think it's out. I think we can get it now, right? It's not, like, on
I actually
pre-order.
cannot remember. Let's look.
Online says January 2026, so it's either already out or it's gonna be out in the next couple weeks, so keep an eye out, people. There's 2 other topics that I think we should, like, rapid fire close out if we can, that are lingering from last week. Number 1 is because now I'm getting fed all of the content from it, but I want your POV, is the Ashley Tisdale toxic mom group. And you know what fucking kills me is like we obviously we record a little earlier than we share our episodes. So the episode that's going live this week is where we like first mention this
Yeah.
topic. And now all the other podcasts are talking about it. I'm like, Alexis was there first. Okay. She was reporting. She
Everyone
was on the
it's
scene.
everyone's talking about it.
And you know what? You do have your TikTok timestamps because you were posting about it even before you recorded that. But all the podcasts are talking about it, but we need your thoughts to help close it out.
Yeah, so if you're not aware, Ashley Tisdale published an article with The Cut about how she left her toxic mom group, came out that that mom group is the one that included none other than Mandy Moore, Hillary Duff, Megan Trainor. Hillary Duff's husband co-signed it by he posted kind of a satirical image mocking the cover. And I believe like what he said was, you know, when you are the most self-absorbed, out of touch person, people tend to focus on their actual toddlers. And basically, it has come out that a lot of whatever that fallout like was about was around the fires and how Mandy Moore lost her home and Hillary Duff literally took her in. And then Ashley Tisdale was texting in the group chat kind of about how excited she was about like building her own house and like her dream home. And it's like, read the freaking room. Read the room.
So that's interesting because the article, not that I've read it, makes it's Ashley kind of getting mad at those people, but it sounds
Yes.
like
Well, because there's 3 sides to every story, yours, mine, and the
right.
truth. And then and now if you add other people, it's like what? An octagon is now like who knows, a 16-sider.
Mhm.
So what I found really interesting, and I can't remember who I heard this from first, so I sorry that I can't credit you, but you know, Ashley Tisdale originally published this on her Substack. So now if you have a Substack, that's people who have opted into your content. And apparently she got, positive messages from it. And I have to say, I mean, yeah, leaving a toxic situation, like more power to you. That's not great. But I think kind of that maybe victim lane that she kind of played in the article has really come out and backfired.
Think so.
I wonder. I'm like, what does she think now?
Like obviously she's ghost mode. Like hear from
It's
her
like,
anymore.
though I think she posted about something recently with that French Target line. What's that line that you said it's
Called
hers?
Frenchie.
Frenchie? Like, I think she posted something about that recently that
Right.
I
Well,
saw.
she's got a
But
day job. She's got to keep it going. But
well, right. And also I will say this is somebody who has worked in PR and marketing, all press is good press.
sure. Fuck it. Hey, we're talking about it. And I plugged her brand and it has
You
nothing
plugged
to
your
do with
brand.
it. I just want to listen. You got to give credit where credit's due. It's got good quality products.
Yeah. To me, I am so plugged in. Like Christy Carlson Romano is kind of, playing into it. And let me tell you, I will say it again. Don't want to piss 50 Cent or her off because she'll come for you. It's just been kind of, I don't want to say fun because I do not believe in a gang up. And I think gang ups are horrible.
Yeah.
But because these are all celebrities and Mandy Moore and Hillary Duff and Ashley Tisdale, like talk about people that we watched on Disney Channel, like that kind of like when we were like
Yeah.
when did High School Musical come out? I think we were probably in like 8th grade. Like it's like kind of crazy to be like, wait, all that J14 drama that we read when we were kids, it's like happening again or it's still happening.
And you know what? I'm sure it's more serious for them because if they're real life friends, which it sounds like they are, turmoil sucks.
Yeah.
But, in a time where there's just like a lot of heaviness in the news and a lot of like shitty things to read about, no pun intended, given our episode topic, sometimes it's nice to just have some good old fashioned light celebrity gossip.
Right. Like lighthearted.
I will close it out with another update from last week's episode. We talked about my sort of judgment about folks who don't wear underwear, or more so, ladies who are wearing thongs in their gym outfits to work out, which I think is unconscionable. but you kind of gave me a task. You encouraged me
Did
to
you follow up?
try no panties for a workout. I'm proud to say that I did it this morning. I went to hot Pilates, so I took a little bit of a risk, but I did wear black leggings.
Yep.
And here are my notes. Number one, it was nice not having to go into my leggings and like readjust and pull my underwear up. Cause
Yeah.
sometimes that happens where it gets
Sometimes your
scrunched in
leggings
your tight
yeah,
leggings.
yeah.
There was nothing under there, so I didn't have to worry about it. I am sort of in the middle about it. I gotta say, I don't think I would do it again. I felt like
Did you feel too
just
exposed?
felt like the coochie juices were just sort of like sitting in between my folds and like I
They
don't
doing
know,
that in underwear too?
I think I like a little cotton underwear for some extra absorption.
Yeah. I mean, listen, to each his own. You can't catch me in a workout pant in underwear.
Yeah,
Can't
so,
catch
like,
me.
I don't know if I'll adopt it. I am willing to give it a couple more tries, though, just to, like, really give it, like, the test that it deserves, and, yeah, there was probably, like, some crotch sweat, but I don't care. I don't care about, like, embarrassment or anything like that. I'm happy to say I did it. I'll try it a couple more times, but I'm kind of in the middle in terms of what it did for me. All right, y'all. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us today. If you want more of our daily chaos, our hot takes, our semi responsible wisdom, please follow us on social. Alexis is at the underscore millennial underscore matriarch. I am at Millennial Mind of Ash. We're both on TikTok and Instagram under those handles. We're serving questionable decisions over there, some comforting truths, the occasional wait, am I the drama? I personally really like to get into my routines lately, a little get ready with me, a little watch me clean my house. I don't know, boring, cozy shit that millennials like to watch. I don't know, check it out. For more episodes of the Millennial Matriarch podcast, you can find us on all the things Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Substack, and YouTube if you'd like to watch us. We kindly ask that you rate, review, subscribe. That is so helpful for our 2026 goals. Until next time, drink some water, trust your gut, read a book, and remember, you are the matriarch of your own fucking castle, so you better act like it. Love you, mean it. Bye.
Bye.